is Mitch McConnell? Shouldn't be a hard question, and it's only getting harder as the days go on. This morning, CNN released footage that a neighbor took in Mitch's neighborhood, and you can see he was being taken out on a stretcher and put into an ambulance and taken to the hospital. Again, not the biggest update. We knew that he was in the hospital. The question is he still alive? Is he functional? And can he still serve as a senator? Well, that didn't get any easier to ask when just the other day, Scott Jennings, who's a conservative commentator and an ex staffer of Mitch McConnell, he went on CNN and said this.
He called me this morning before I did my radio show. We talked for about 17 minutes. He talked a lot about the situation with Iran, talked a little bit about Ukraine and what's going on in Europe. I told him I'd been to the Teddy Roosevelt Library. We talked a little bit about the history of the vice presidency and how Roosevelt had transformed that in the modern presidency, a little history of the Senate. It was a wide-ranging conversation. I talked to him often. I hadn't talked to him since he'd been in. I'd gotten a few text messages from him, but I hadn't spoken to him. So it was good to hear his voice. Voice sounded strong and sounded like he was keeping up with the news to me.
Did you ask him how he was feeling?
Yeah, he said he was feeling okay. Obviously well enough to call me on the phone, and obviously well enough to talk to Barrasso and Thune. Now, look, I'm not qualified to discuss any.
So I'm going to stop here because this brings up some critical questions. Is Scott Jennings telling the truth? I adore Scott Jennings. I think he's brilliant. But is he being used by the Uniparty and by Mitch's team and the swamp with John Thune in trying to lay cover? And I'm going to tell you why they may be playing cover. Because just after Scott Jennings came out and said, hey, Mitch called me. Mitch called me. Not I called Mitch. And Mitch is doing well, and he's up to date on all of these recent events. So the story's out there. But then the Democrat governor of Kentucky, where Mitch is from, went and sent a letter to Mitch's office just a day after the Scott Jennings post and wanted details because, again, this is where I think the bigger issue is. The governor of Kentucky's asking if he's capable and able to continue serving on the U.S. Senate. It's also remarkable, and this is a key piece, that a Democrat governor is the one demanding transparency while much of the Republican leadership has relied on brief public statements. That's exactly true. Why are we leaving this up to a Democrat senator to ask these questions? And let me say this. This is coming from a party, the Republicans and the MAGA party, which I'm part of, that demanded transparency with Joe Biden and his issues. We need to hold the same standard to ourselves. It is not fair nor appropriate for us to have these kinds of questions and not see any proof of life, any proof of ability, or any official appearance by Mitch McConnell. Yes, he's an old guy. We get it. Yes, he's in the hospital. But with the August 3rd deadline looming over the Kentucky law that says that if you're incapacitated and no longer able to serve, we have to move to fill that Senate vacancy. And this brings up a really delicate question for the swamp. Let me ask you this. Here's a question for you in the comments. Who in Kentucky could then apply to run in the special Senate runoff for this vacant seat with McConnell? Thomas Massie. That is somebody that Donald Trump and the swamp as well unified in running out of Congress. You can like Thomas or not. I don't care. I'm just simply saying there's a lot running on the timing of all of this. And what we may find is that Scott Jennings was just laying cover to try to get past this August 3rd deadline. The other question that the internet sleuths are asking, and it's totally spot on, is Elaine Chao, who is Senator McConnell's wife since the early 80s. Well, she was in China while this happened. She did not come back from China as it happened. She is not an American delegate officially. She's an ex-transportation secretary in Donald Trump's first term. She has no reason to be in China in meeting with some of Xi's people talking about American interests. That was her public statement. So again, strange, but maybe no stranger. And interestingly, because it's consistent with our thoughts on CNN, when Scott Jennings came out with his statement, there was all kinds of other statements from Republicans saying they spoke with Mitch McConnell and that he's fine. But follow where this twist is now taking us in the complete absence of any information on Mitch McConnell. Look at what CNN fell for. It's hilarious.
But some Republicans about Senator Mitch McConnell's stay in the hospital. One of them was mistakenly taken from a parody account on Twitter. Now, obviously, we should not have done that, and we regret the error.
So again, CNN took a statement from a totally fake account on X that was parodying all of the public officials saying that they spoke with Mitch and he's just fine. CNN ran with it for half of a day on their news cycle. The other thing, though, that is showing its face in this vacuum of information or lack of information that we're getting from Mitch's team are some of the world's best memes. So here's Mitch McConnell making his appearance on the WWE Monday Night Raw. So again, this is leader John Thune opening up the grave, and this is obviously a parody and not true for those of you that are out there in the internet land. Another thing that's not true is this meme mimicking the WNBA player who was just active with her own memes here last week. Here's Mitch McConnell. Just if there's anything we do well on the Republican side, it's our memes. And then my favorite, we'll close with this. So obviously this is a rip on the Australian Olympics just 4 years ago, and this was the parody person that was trying out for the breakdancing competition, and she wasn't a professional, and it was a whole thing. So all of this goes back to this, right? Where is Mitch? What is Mitch's team doing? They're very active, incidentally, and timely on telling Donald Trump to go pound sand with the Save America Act. They're totally void on trying to keep the public up to date on is Mitch alive and is he able to do his job? And I think it all points back to what the governor in Ohio is getting at. This August 3rd deadline is the key piece of the puzzle. Let me know what you think. If you've yet to subscribe to the Chris Locke Show, please do so. We'll see you in the very next video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Chris Locke Show for the latest America First news, conservative commentary, and the stories that mainstream media refuses to cover. These two videos right up here, they're going to be next. Pick your favorite. I'll see you over there.